Okay. We're
All
ready.
right. We are ready for today's Resilient Soul series interview. So, welcome those of you who are watching live and even those of you who might be catching the replay later on YouTube. I'm Cindy Brockway. I'm a self expansion coach and I'm the founder of the Resilient Soul series and the Courage Hub, where we share uplifting conversations around self awareness, self care, self acceptance, and living with greater clarity and intention. And my guest today is Pam Wood, and she is a bereaved daughter whose mother passed away in 2024.
Hmm.
Through many months of grief, she found the strength to become a certified grief educator so that she can witness for others experiencing grief in their journey. So, Pam, it is so nice to have you here
Oh,
for this conversation.
thank you, Cindy.
And you are welcome. I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about yourself and the work that you do today.
Okay. Well, I've worn many, many hats over the years. Technically, I'm retired. So, I was born in D.C., Washington, D.C., moved to the Eastern Shore after I graduated high school and have been here ever since. And I think had I stayed where I was, I may not have had all the opportunities, that I've had now. Primarily, my goal was to work in radio and broadcasting, and I did for a while and then got out of it. And then somehow ended up in nonprofit sectors doing a variety of things. So, communications, newsletters, that kind of thing. And then ran a really fun program at our local hospital for 55 plus for 10 years. I loved it. But it got downsized. And so I ended up going to work at the local senior center as a benefits counselor. So I met with a lot of people on Medicare and prescription drug coverage and things like that. So that was from 2010 to 2015. And I decided to leave at the end of 2015 because that's when mom was starting to have some more physical health issues. And so her name is Reba. And I told Cindy, be prepared because at some point, it's guaranteed I'll tear up. Um, but we lived together. And so that was actually helpful. And I was still working part time, but I could see where she was not feeling comfortable being home. And then we got some sitters a couple days a week. But ultimately, I ended up, I guess, partially retiring at the end of 2015. So I could work from home and did some things from home, and I could be there for her. But things kind of started going. Well, you want to know what I'm doing today. So today, because I'll get off on another track. Sorry about that. So today I am retired, but I'm also an audiobook narrator, so hence the big old microphone here.
Mm.
And also still receiving bereavement support from my local hospice. I don't know what I would have done without them. And getting ready to have my first assignment as a grief educator with hospice because that was the goal. I wanted to give back to them for
Mm.
the many, many, many hours that they've given me. So that's what's happening
Wow.
today.
Yeah, yes. And um, so I think what led you or inspired you to become a certified grief educator
Hmm.
is your experience with your mom and
Hmm.
with hospice. And so, would you want to share just a little bit about your caregiving journey? Because I think
Sure.
a lot of people in our community are caregivers in one way or another. So,
Sure.
share us just a little bit about your journey with your mom.
Sure. Well, like as I said, we lived together and, and we were 20 years. So the first 10 years, not bad. And then it got progressively, um, I don't want to say more demanding, but she needed more attention. So caregivers, I love you. I understand and I walk the walk. So, um, it got to the point where, we could still go out, but it was mostly, doctor's appointments, things like that. And she was doing pretty good mindset wise. She had some forgetfulness, but her actual diagnosis was normal pressure hydrocephalus. And that can lead to a form of dementia. It leads to poor balance, and that was one thing that she had. But no big signs of dementia, just the normal aging, forgetfulness kind of thing. But the last couple of years got progressively demanding, and I would come in here and do, work on an audiobook, and sometimes I'd need to be in here for a couple of hours, and it got to the point where I could maybe sneak in for 30 minutes here and there, because she didn't really forget I was in here, but she kind of got a little worried, when she couldn't see me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 101 when she passed away. So she lived a long life, saw many
Yes.
presidents and things that were happening. And so finally, in the last couple of years, as things progressed, and I needed extra help, I was at burnout level. I was running on fumes. And if you know, you know. And I wasn't sleeping that well, and had been sleeping on the sofa for probably 5 or 6 years so that I could be up, because there were falls that would happen in the middle of the night. And got to know the local EMS department, and got to know that I would call and ask for fall assist.
Mm-hmm.
And they were most kind and caring. So, the falls were coming a little more frequently, and I still needed more help. So we got a couple more sitters, just a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, so I could get out. I could go to lunch. I'm a crochet fiend, so I could go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's and look around, and yet I still had that fight or flight feeling, like I have to get back home. I have to get back home.
Mm-hmm.
And my one sitter said, Pam, just, take your time. And in my mind, I'm like, well, she's given us 3 hours and it's already 2.5 hours. And I would text her, I'm on my way, or I've got one more stop to make. And she's like, forget it, just enjoy yourself. So if you have ever experienced that fight or flight, that flight to get back home, for me, it was to get back home. And even now, 1.5 years later, 2 to 3 hours is about my maximum to want to be away. And then I start feeling, I got to get back home. I got to get back home. And then probably about 1.5 years or so ago, maybe 2 years, as I was narrating, I started noticing I was short of breath. Like I couldn't get a full, deep breath as I was recording. And I still get it once in a while, but never associated it with grief. And in this case, it would be anticipatory grief. So that'll be something we can chat about. But I started to think there was something really wrong. And I went through every test under the sun from my doctor, whom I love, and she takes good care of me. And I hope caregivers, you have your person that looks out for you and keeps an eye on things. And if you don't, find one. So a fellow narrator said to me, Pam, do you think this is part of your grief? Never associated it with at all. Never. And when all the tests came back negative, I had the pulmonary function, I had an echocardiogram, I had chest x-ray, I had the stress test, but I had to do the one where they give you the little shot in the arm, IV. Everything came back perfectly normal. That's when it hit me, because that's when I, probably not even realizing it, things were getting a little more hectic. And I can almost guarantee I was experiencing anticipatory grief at the time and didn't realize it. And it was settling in my chest, among other things. So caregivers, it settles in your body. The grief settles in your body, and don't let it get so deep that it can't be released. You have to release it, whether it's tears, whether it's some exercise. But yeah, that was my caregiver journey, and I my nervous system was shot. Because I'm on alert. Is that her getting up? Is
Hmm.
that
Yeah, yeah.
24/7, especially when you live with them. So,
Yes, you're very right about that. And so I can see that that season of caregiving, and for you, was extended,
yes.
since she was with you
Yeah.
a long time and lived to
Yeah.
a
10
good
years.
age. Yeah. And that it really impacted you emotionally and personally. Um, and uh, and so I'm curious, was there a moment when you realized that this grief journey was changing you in a deeper way?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know that there's a pinpoint moment because I was so drowning in grief when she passed that I knew I wasn't the same person.
Mm,
And my vulnerability came shining through. And that's when I knew I was a changed person from that. But after, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, I laugh about it now because 3 months I thought, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to go out and maybe volunteer now because I'm very much a homebody. And this has made me even more of a homebody. And I thought, yeah, I can go volunteer. I can go check out some places. I even filled out a little application for the blood bank here. And then 2 days later, nope, not ready, not ready. So the further I got away from the really heavy grief, um, I thought, okay, I can maybe try this. I can maybe try this. So I did little by little. And then I knew I was, you know, beginning to heal, not healed, beginning to heal. And so I became a volunteer with hospice to teach them a crochet class. So that got me out once a week.
mm,
And but I still I'm the queen of cancellation. I mean, I admit it now. If you ask me to go somewhere and we make plans, chances are I'm probably not going to go. I don't know why. It's just one of those when I wake up, do I want to do it? Do I don't want to do it? And that still could be some fight or flight, in me that I feel the need to get home. Um, but then I saw just pure coincidence, probably the ad on Facebook for um, the grief educator certification. And I think it caught my eye because it wasn't a therapist and it wasn't a counselor. I didn't want that. I thought I would have, like, what do they call it? Oh, when you think you're faking everybody out. What's that phrase?
yeah, fear
I
of
can't.
what imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. So that's what led me to at least start it. And I thought if I can give back to hospice, oh, there goes my makeup, um, then I will have come full circle.
Yeah, yeah. And and so it sounds like you just went right in there, you got yourself certified,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're ready for that assignment. And you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned you're ready for
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
first assignment. So, as we talk about this, what do you wish that more people understood about grief? And,
Oh my.
what is it you're going to be sharing in part, with those people that you work with?
Well, it's this program by David Kessler. I don't. A lot of people know him. He's world renowned in his grief education. Um, it's more of really using our active listening skills with someone, physically sitting with them, listening, um, sharing some feedback maybe on what they've said, um, and just basically, it's normal. It's normal to feel this way. We try to connect with the person by asking the name of their loved one. Tell
Mhm.
us about them. Tell me about them. And just let them talk, talk it out, because that is such a huge help. And, through my own bereavement support, the counselors, top notch, gold star, they just sit and they just listen to me. And I mean, I bawled for 2 hours at a time when they were here, and they just listened.
Mhm.
Might
Mhm.
might ask a question here and there, but that was their job initially. Um, so folks, if you go this route, don't be alarmed that they don't say a whole lot. If you get into grief
Mhm.
counseling, and I highly recommend it. Um, Check with your local hospice organization, because at least in my community, it is a free service. They do groups, they do one-on-ones, um, and there's no charge. There's no charge.
Mhm.
So I think the point for me, um, that I realized maybe I was ready was when I saw that ad, and that it wasn't for a counselor and it wasn't for a therapist, but it was a grief educator. And I thought,
Mhm.
okay, I've walked that walk many, many miles, and maybe I can at least sit and probably cry with you. I'm getting a little better at it, but, if I can do that, then I can at least give back to my community that way.
Yes. And so we're talking a little bit about how we can support someone through grief, or along that journey of
Mm-hmm.
grieving. And what would you say to someone who feels alone or overwhelmed right now in their own grief?
Well, kind of sounds cheesy, but they are not alone. And I would highly recommend they reach out to someone to talk it through. Some type of bereavement counseling, some type of mental health counseling. And it's funny, until I've had this counseling, I kind of, admittedly, shamefully admittedly, that mental health counseling meant there were really big issues with somebody. Somebody was really
Mhm.
dealing with a lot of hardcore issues. But it's not. It's just having that person to talk to. They can reflect back, make sure they're understanding what you're saying. And sometimes it's just like a relief. Even if it just lasts for a short while, you'll get some relief. But, and there's lots of books out there about it. But if they're feeling alone right now, um, you want to, are you on, are you thinking in terms of harming yourself, versus do you just need to, kind of let it go?
Mhm.
So definitely reach out to somebody who has had a loss. If you're feeling alone, feeling very heavy grief, then please reach out, search in your community by county for hospice bereavement. Maybe your local senior center in your county may have something. I know there's caregiver groups in our area, but I don't know that there's actually a grief group. And so I'm kind of working behind the scenes on that a little bit. So,
Yes. And you talked about your I don't know if it was a mindset, but your perspective on reaching out and seeking help
mhm.
has kind of, you know, expanded. And so through this journey of grief and feeling almost overwhelmed, and maybe
Oh,
sometimes you were,
yeah.
how did that journey, along with you getting certified to be a grief educator, how did that shape the way you view resilience now, personal
Oh.
resilience and healing and self-growth?
Well, it's funny. I think you acted on a comment that I made the other day on Facebook, and I don't feel like I have, but others see it. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily
Mhm.
see it because you're so
Mhm.
busy walking through it that you don't necessarily see it. But yeah, I've been resilient, I guess, my whole life when it comes to my friends will say, "Gosh, Pam, I can't believe you're doing that. That's great. You know, you left this and now you're starting this." So I have very much the entrepreneurial spirit because I have owned a few businesses. And but let me think now. Reword your question again, or tell me the first part because I want to go
Well,
back to
just
that.
how did your journey shape how you view resilience,
Hmm.
healing, and self-growth?
Well, when you said overwhelm, God,
Mm.
yes. Unbelievably overwhelmed because, and I guess an audience that I'm interested in talking to and working with are only children. So I was an only child.
Oh,
So I had two half sisters from either side. One is deceased, one is estranged at this point, which don't be afraid if that happens because I read a lot about it and it does happen when there's a death of a parent. And so I was the one, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. I'm saying it to prepare you for people who might have be in similar shoes that I had to make all the arrangements. I had to work one-on-one with the funeral director, who is just a gold star gem. And I had to call or visit Social Security. I had to call and contact all of the pension offices very soon after the death. So I was a walking cry bomb. Every time I had to call somebody, I just broke down. So I
mm.
had to do all the banking, closing the accounts and making sure they were secure and working with the bank. And again, my banker is another sister from another mister. And that's my posse, right? That's my posse. And so I think that has helped me determine that that's one audience I would be very interested in working with, and that would be adult only children who and if they're single and have no spouse, no children, no nieces and nephews, it's it's going to fall on you. And so let me help kind of guide what comes next. I kind of kept a log of all the things that I did and eager to share that with people who are in a similar situation.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not just only children.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, even if there are children,
Yes,
adult children in the mix, there's one person that it falls on
you got
because
that right.
the other siblings either are too busy, don't have time, or have no desire
Mm-hmm.
to be involved in the caregiving and
You're
taking
absolutely
care
right.
of the things.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself when I went through this with my dad in 2018, a lot of that stuff fell on me. And my brother, we have a brother that's a couple years younger than me, and then I have two other siblings that passed away. But um, the one that is still living, he said, Cindy, and he gave me a list of things to do, even though he was, not able to help in it. He helped us do some of that stuff before my dad even passed away.
Okay.
So getting the
Good.
paperwork done for the banks and for the power of
Mm-hmm.
attorney and all that stuff, getting that done ahead of time. So yeah, so I can definitely see, and I suppose when you work with people, you walk them through the different stages and the different
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities that they may not be aware is going to come into the mix, as it gets closer to the end. So
Could I
what
share
do you want to
interject?
say?
Okay,
Yeah.
so hold your next question there. But my parents probably started their little notebook for me when I was in my 30s, maybe even younger. And that file followed them every move. They made sure I knew where it was. And every time mom would bring it out to go over something, I did this. And she'd get
Mm.
so frustrated. Will you shape up? I'm just trying to help you. So, um, but I'm a very emotional person. So I say to any listeners or viewers today, if you're kind of in that sandwich state, so maybe you have children and you have parents. So if you're my age and you have them on both sides, you start your own little booklet for your children.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This was handwritten. This wasn't anything fancy on a computer. This was something over 30 years. I could see the adjustments being made on the paper. And then if you have parents, start one with them. And I know this sounds, people say, oh, of course you're going to need that. Make sure you have everybody's correct social security number and date of birth. And I share this story because when I called, Mom worked for the federal government back in the day, and when I called them to update the pensions and cancel and whatnot, I gave them her date of birth, and that's not what they had. And I started in a blink of an eye second guessing myself, like, well, her birth date is blah blah blah. No, I'm sorry, that's not, and I can't tell you what it is until you can confirm it, right? And I'm sure the recordings, the phone calls are recorded. And all of a sudden, I guess my little guardian angel popped in my head and said, well, is it this date? And it was. And it was their anniversary date, which is in the same month as her birth date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, folks, I'm telling you, that's why I say check to make sure that the pension offices, retirement offices for your parents have the correct information now. So I had to send in her ID card, her state ID card, make a copy of it rather, circle the date of birth, and send it in to them. And they would update it. So, that being said, when you start, and don't assume that your adult children always know maybe the year of your birth. You got to be honest about it. So make sure that you have that information for your family. Big
Yes,
caregiver tip.
yes. Well, I have really enjoyed listening to your story and talking with you about this very sensitive subject. And it sounds like you are knowledgeable, in what you're talking about, and you've got the certification now to be able to support people. And so I'd like for you to share with us, how can people connect with you or
Mm-hmm.
follow your work?
Sure. Well, I just started not long ago a little Instagram account, and that is Grief Educator Pam. Grief Educator Pam on Instagram. And email is the same, educator Pam, griefeducatorpam at gmail.com. So griefeducatorpam at gmail.com. So I'm primarily hoping to volunteer with hospice. So if you happen to be in our area, I'm not saying that sometimes they don't do long distance, but usually there's a hospice, in your area that you can reach out to. But if you're near me, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'd like to talk with Pam. And they'll reach out to me and we'll get something scheduled.
Well, that sounds wonderful that you have that already in the works and ready to go. And, it's only been what, a couple years, I think, since your
20,
mom passed?
20 months.
20
So it'll be
months.
2 years in September.
Mm,
Can't believe it.
right. Well, before we say goodbye, could you tell us what gives you hope today?
Oh my. You really want to get me crying? I think just being able to give back to the community in some form or fashion as a listening ear and sitting beside someone in their journey, if I can help them and give them hope, it'll come through me as well.
Yes. I and I love that you have that your hope for today is in helping give others hope.
Yeah.
That's such a selfless motive, I think, and I love that. I love to hear that about you. So, those of you who are watching, listening, if you want to connect with Pam, feel free to reach out. We'll put the information down in the notes how to reach her on YouTube. I mean, on Instagram, and
Instagram. Uh-huh.
and her email as well. And connect with her if you, even if you just want to chat, or
Hmm.
if you would like to follow her journey,
Yeah.
as she's in the very beginning of it. It sounds like,
Yeah.
um, in your beginning journey as a grief educator, because you know what, you don't have to be a caregiver to experience heavy grief.
Oh gosh, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No.
So any type of grief. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a loss, as you know. Well, a
Well, and
death.
right. And I was reminded from my own bereavement counselor that there are so many kinds of grief. So you obviously a loss of a loved one, but the loss or change in a job. I had to close my ballroom dance business that I had for 10 years due to COVID and caregiving. I grieved over that. The grief, like I say, over a job, over a move, um, the loss of a community, if you have to move. I mean,
Mhm,
there's just all
mhm.
kinds of grief. So uh, don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid, oh, that's silly.
Mhm.
I moved away. I should be okay. You know, Sometimes it just helps to talk things out.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And I agree with you. So thank you, Pam, for giving
Oh,
us
thank you.
time. And we will see you guys later. So
Thank you for
bye
the
bye.
opportunity. Bye.
You are welcome. Bye bye.